is Jenna and today I'm here doing a book talk. The book I'm going to be talking about is Losing Brave by Bailee Madison and Stefne Miller. This book is about a girl named Peyton whose twin sister Dylan disappeared 1 year ago at a bus station, and now Peyton is trying to discover what happened to her sister while also trying to figure out who she is as a person. New clues are now coming to light and she thinks she's getting closer to discovering what happened to her sister. This book was an interesting one to read. I probably gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. It took me ages to figure out what I wanted to rate it because while I did enjoy reading it, and there was probably one moment where I went, oh, actually that's really good, like that's a really good moment. The rest of the book just was a struggle to get through, and I sent my friend so many messages being like, I don't understand. So I really wanted to talk about it with you guys today. So this is going to be full of spoilers. If you haven't yet read Losing Brave and you are interested in reading it, then I recommend that you go and read it and then come back and discuss the book with us. Otherwise, stay and feel free to get spoiled as much as possible because it's an interesting book and I want to talk about it. The first thing that I have to talk about in this book is the fact that this girl, she's probably like 16 or something. She refers to her parents as mama and daddy, and I'm just like, I can't get behind that. It made me super uncomfortable while I was reading it to hear her calling her dad daddy all the time. And not only that though, like I probably could have gotten behind it if it was just like her saying, like just saying the word daddy, but no, the entire book like referred to her father as daddy. So it would be like when daddy walked into the room, I'm like, no, use his name for goodness sake. Like that just really made me feel super uncomfortable and I didn't enjoy it. And the explanation that she gave for doing that was that apparently she would have been accused of rejecting her southern roots if she didn't call her parents mama and daddy. So anyone who lives or understands the culture of southern USA, please let me know. Is that a real thing? Do you guys actually call your parents mama and daddy even if you're like almost about to graduate high school? Do you really do that? I really need to know. Second thing I want to talk about is the fact that I'm convinced this book did not have a copy editor. There were multiple moments in the book where I found typos, I found incomplete sentences, I found sentences with words missing, and I was just looking at it like, did someone not proofread this? Like, you know, a book goes through so many copy edits and proofreaders. I'm like, how did so many typos get missed? Like, I don't understand how that can happen in a book like this. So many people read it. How are there typos? It makes no sense. And it actually makes me wonder because I was going to pick up the audiobook for it because Bailee Madison actually does the audiobook and I was going to pick it up. I'm kind of curious to pick it up now just to see if those like missing words, if she says them. Because if not, it's just going to sound weird. Okay, so in this book, we meet Peyton, who is a really, I'm not going to say she's uptight, but she's like a really perfect girl. You know, she's popular, everyone wants to be her and all that sort of stuff. And we find out that her twin sister Dylan, they were identical, which I'll come to a little bit later. They're identical, and like, so her sister disappeared a year ago. And Peyton, all of a sudden, because it's been a year, remember, Peyton all of a sudden is like, I need to know what happened to my sister. I'm like, well, hun, it's been a year. Like, the police have probably been looking. I'm sure your parents have been looking. Like, it's been a year, you know, maybe you start thinking of other things. And it was just, yeah, it was weird. It was like one day just like a switch flipped in her head and she's like, I need to find out what happened to my sister. I went, okay, that's fine. So her dad is the funeral home director, the only one in the entire town apparently, and he actually does it. They live in like a 2-story house and the funeral home is downstairs and the crematorium, like the place where he embalms the bodies, is in the basement and they live on the top floor. Because that's not creepy. They live right next to the cemetery because that's not like inviting trouble. The characters themselves were just weird. They just were. So we had Peyton, who like I said is kind of like the perfect popular, everybody wants to be her, but of course as the book goes on she starts to realize maybe that's not who she wants to be, and she has this like total identity crisis, which I will talk about a little bit later. And then we have all the secondary characters. So we've got Cole, who was Dylan's boyfriend, and Cole and Peyton are sort of starting to get a bit closer together, and so Peyton's like, oh no, like he's Dylan's boyfriend, he's still holding a candle for her, like I can't do anything. Then we got Joshua, who is the town jock, popular boy who just wants to like get into everyone's pants, who he did, by the way, he got Misty knocked up. Misty's another character. She starts the book 16 and pregnant, and the entire town just kind of thinks that's okay, and then she loses the baby, which is sad. But I was like, that's not, what? What sort of a message are you trying to give people here? Then you've got Casey, she's basically the mum of two little brothers, because I think her mum walked out on her or died, I can't remember. Then we've got Star with two R's, who we found out her real name is actually Mary. She picked the name Star so she could sound cooler. She's the typical popular girl who, when Peyton starts going a bit cray-cray, like completely dejects her and everything, and I'm just like, Then we have Brody, who is, how do you describe Brody? Brody is like a family friend, a really close family friend though, who like they kind of see as family, and it's just, that turns into a whole thing later on as well. So the characters just, and then we've got Nana. Nana is Peyton's Nana, and she keeps calling Peyton by the name of Dylan, like, oh, Dylan, like, oh, are you here for the bus? And Peyton's always like, no, it's me, Nana, like, it's Peyton. So talk about that later too. So as the book goes on, like I said, Peyton starts to uncover some more of the mysteries around her sister's disappearance. So we find out quite quickly that Peyton doesn't remember a lot about what happened in the bus station, because she's kind of repressed those memories because it's so traumatic. So Peyton starts having these little episodes, I guess, where she will forget what's happening. So she kind of, I don't want to call it short-term memory loss because it's not what it was, but she would have these little episodes where she would be kind of like unsure where she is, that sort of thing. Another thing about this book is it's told in a non-linear format. So the top of every chapter has the date and the time, and then during the chapter breaks we also have times as well. And that confused the crap out of me. I don't know why, like it shouldn't have, because it literally had date and time, but it just confused me. It wasn't done well. It was confusing. All of a sudden we'd be with Dylan, and then all of a sudden we'd be with Peyton, and then we also had a lot of point of view shifts within paragraphs. So all of a sudden I'd be like reading from Dylan's point of view, then I'd be reading from Peyton's point of view, then I'd be reading from like Joshua's point of view or something, and I'm like, how did we even get here? So that was really confusing. That didn't help at all. About halfway through the book, Peyton she's really starting to fall off the wagon a little bit. She's really just not sure who she is. So she's reading Edgar Allan Poe. I'm pretty sure she's reading it in jail as well, that's right, because she gets arrested. Peyton gets arrested for punching Josh because Peyton found out that Josh was the father of Misty's baby and didn't want to help at all with paying for the funeral arrangements, because Misty was going to give the baby up for adoption, but as soon as the baby died in childbirth, the parents who were going to adopt it were like, no, it's your problem now, you pay for the funeral. Okay, sure. So Peyton got really mad at Josh and like punched him in the face. He pressed charges, so she ended up in jail and then got let out because Cole managed to get his dad to bribe the police officer. So in jail, Peyton is doing her homework and she's reading Edgar Allan Poe, and she decides, I want to be called Poe. Like, I want that to be my name from now on. And all the characters are like, yeah, okay. They just kind of roll with it. And I would be fine with that if Poe was just like a nickname. But no, the book itself starts referring to Peyton as Poe. So it'll be like, Poe said this. I'm like, what happened to Peyton? Are they two different characters? I got so confused. I honestly thought Peyton and Poe were two different people for like the longest time. I was so confused. Yeah, so Peyton becomes Poe in the book, both as a character and in the novel itself. She becomes Poe. So I was like, what? How did this even happen? She and Cole start getting closer, which is actually kind of cute. Like, I definitely shipped them together, but Cole was holding a candle for Dylan. Then we get into the really interesting side of things. So one of the moments of the book that I really did like was, as the book was getting on, we find out that two other girls have gone missing who are around the same build, same look as Dylan, and they have gone missing within the past 6 months. One girl goes missing a few days later, like just a few days before the story starts, or I think it's during the story, and Peyton starts to, or Poe, sorry, by this point, starts to seriously suspect Josh, because Josh is kind of a creep. He took Peyton out to this trail which is where the girl was said to have been abducted from, and yeah, so she starts to really suspect Josh, and Josh says something that kind of triggers her memory, and she goes, all right, that's probably where Dylan is, I'm gonna go find her. And so she goes out to this pier and she gets into the water, and there's like this platform or something in the middle of a cove that she swims to, and she finds Dylan's angel pendant, because Peyton and Dylan both wore angel pendants around their neck, which was given to them by their birth father, who they'd never met and didn't know who he was. And so yeah, so she found this angel pendant, and attached to this pendant were these 3 barrels that were in the water, and she got out and she called the police, and the police found 3 bodies in the barrels, and it was like said that it was Dylan and these other 2 girls that went missing. So that was kind of like a hard-hitting moment for me, where I went, oh, that actually took a really dark turn, and that was probably the moment in the book that I liked the most, which sounds so morbid, but it took this dark turn and just I wasn't expecting it, and it really threw me for a loop. So I liked that in the book. So from there, Poe is just convinced that Josh is the murderer, and she goes to confront him, and she ends up at Brody's house. Now remember, Brody is the family friend who we think is like more family than friend. Turns out he is. So Brody like attacks Josh, and Peyton is kind of there and she watches, and Brody explains that, yeah, I killed Dylan because Dylan and Peyton were actually his younger half-sisters, because turns out Brody's dad was also their birth father, and Brody was really, really jealous of them because while he grew up kind of in squalor, they grew up with everything they could ever want. Like Peyton got a car for her 16th birthday, Dylan got tickets to Europe. That was his motive. He was really angry that they got everything and he didn't. And when she asked him about the other two girls, he said Dylan was for revenge, the other two were just for fun. So I was like, okay, that's creepy, but the murder mystery element of the book was actually pretty good and I did really enjoy it. The issue I had with the book, the biggest issue that I have with it, right, was this. So a year ago in that bus station, and we find this out right at the end of the book, a year ago in that bus station, Peyton and Dylan switched clothes because Peyton covered for Dylan because Dylan slept over with her boyfriend. So Peyton covered for her with their mum. They got to the bus station and they were going to get changed like into each other's clothes because that's how Peyton had covered with Dylan. She'd put on Dylan's clothes and like pretended to be her and left for the bus station. So at the bus station, they were going to get changed into their normal clothes because they, being identical twins, you know, they had to have their own identity. So they wore really different clothes, obviously. And Peyton went, no, you be Peyton for this bus ride because I covered for you and Nana's going to want to talk and I don't really want to listen to her. But Peyton would listen to her, Dylan wouldn't. So I'll dress as Dylan and you dress as Peyton. So Dylan was dressed as Peyton, Peyton was dressed as Dylan. Do you kind of see where this is going? Dylan, who was actually Peyton, she was the one that got murdered in this bus station by Brody and like dragged away and everything. And Dylan, dressed as Peyton, saw it. And so she got, you know, traumatized obviously because she's seen her sister murdered. The issue I have with this is then, because Dylan was wearing Peyton's clothes, everyone just assumed she was Peyton. And I was like, for an entire year, her parents, her friends, herself, none of them realized she was actually Dylan. And that bugs me because even though they're identical twins, parents know how to tell identical twins apart, not just by the clothes that they wear. So every time Peyton, who was actually Dylan during this book, every time she did something like a little different, like she bought the Winnebago, she started wearing Dylan's clothes. It was Dylan inside, like trying to come out and show the world, hey, I'm Dylan. So it was like her subconscious telling her, you are Dylan. And I just had a problem with that because I'm like, no parent would mix up their identical twins like that. No parent would just be like, oh, she's wearing Peyton's clothes, she must be Peyton. No, there would be facial features that they're born identical, but they're not clones of each other. So they have little differences that parents would know about. So I was just like, worst part is, do you remember me saying earlier that Nana kept calling Peyton Dylan? Yeah, Nana knew the entire time that she was actually Dylan, but didn't actually want to say anything. Even Cole suspected that she was actually Dylan and didn't really want to say anything. The big thing is, of course, because the body had been under the water for a year in this barrel, it was super decomposed. They had to wait for dental records to say who it was. Okay, yeah. Dental records wise, Peyton never went to a dentist. Dylan would always go for both of them because Peyton didn't want to go to the dentist. The dental records matched Dylan. And I was like, what? What person doesn't go to the dentist at least once in their life to get dental records done? I really struggle to get past this idea that parents wouldn't know their own daughter just because she dressed a little differently and like the other one. That ruined the book for me because the entire book rested on this, like this twist, and it was just so stupid and unbelievable. So there you go. Those are all of the things that I really wanted to talk about with Losing Brave. I really struggled with this idea that a teenager, an identical twins are only told apart by the clothes they wear. That really bothered me. And it also bothered me the fact that Peyton, because she was told she was Peyton because she was wearing Peyton's clothes, even though she'd been through a trauma, she just kind of went with it. I get you've been through a traumatic experience, but I feel like you would still know your own identity. That's just how I feel. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section below if you have read Losing Brave and what you thought about the twin thing, because I just found it weird. If you like this video, be sure to give it a huge thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing. Stay random. Bye.